Hey, business building warrior, welcome to Silent Sales Machine Radio. This is the podcast that features hundreds of interviews with students of the Proven Amazon course, which is the premier flagship training course of our community. It's the most used Amazon seller training in the Amazon seller universe. It's been around for longer than any other course with a bigger support team, more success stories than any other. And we love bringing you a steady stream of real people telling very real stories of how they went from, in many cases, knowing nothing about e commerce to building a beautiful business. And they share their journey, what works, what didn't, what they're selling, how they're finding their inventory, what it's like to integrate a business under the roof where their families are. And today we're going to meet someone who's done just that. We're going to meet Conrad in just a moment. He's actually good friends with some coaches on our team who kind of brought him along in this journey. Actually, before they were coaches, they were all friends. He actually worked with Stacy, who is one of the great podcast episodes. We'll stick a link in the show notes here. She went from being on the SWAT team as a negotiator to being home full time with her family, with her husband, Joseph, who's you've heard on the podcast many times as well, talking about their Amazon and Walmart selling businesses. So they're friends. He worked at the same police department with them, and they shared with him what their journey was like, and he ended up going full time as well. So we've got two families now full time in e-commerce as a result of those conversations and friendships. And today we're going to hear Conrad's story. He had a little bit of eBay experience way back like 20 years ago and sold a few things. So he had a bit of a bug for e-commerce. He had made a little bit of money. Then with the help of this community, the help of his good friends, the proven Amazon course training, he now has a very healthy, robust, high five-figure business per month that is his full-time gig. They're able to homeschool now. They've got their family at home, helping in the business. It's a beautiful story, and I think you're going to really enjoy hearing about Conrad's journey towards full-time online with the Amazon selling models that we teach here. He's starting to step into some wholesale. You hear us talking a little bit about some of the tools and resources that he's using. We're going to link to all of that in the show notes. So you don't have to furiously write down any notes. If you hear a link or a website or a training mentioned, that's going to be in the show notes. You can go to silentjimdotcom and find this episode, scroll down. If you're watching on YouTube, same thing. You'll see all the details there. Let me ask you one little favor before I get Conrad on the line. If you haven't done it before, we'd sure love to get a review, get a feedback, get a thumbs up, get a subscribe if you're on YouTube. If you're on iTunes, man, we love those reviews. Those 5-star reviews sure do make us happy around here because it tells us that you're listening, you're benefiting, you're enjoying this show. Thank you for being a part, the best part of this podcast. We do it for you. This show is yours. And for those who share this show with others, thank you. We see you. I can't count the number of times when people say, "Yeah, I shared an Uber," or "My Uber driver told me about your show," or "I had someone in, next to me on the bus," and that's how I found this community. We've done word of mouth exclusively for decades around here. Over 20 years, all organic, all word of mouth. We've just recently started doing some paid ads. You may see us popping up here and there. We're trying some things out, but we love those organic word of mouth people who come into our community because they know a good person. Good people know good people. We've learned that over the years. That's the best way to find the best people is just to find out the people you really know, like, and trust. Who do they know, like, and trust? That's how we've grown. So thank you for spreading the word, sending your friends to silentjim.com to check out over 850 episodes of really good people sharing their very real stories. And we're glad you're a part of that. All right, I'm going to jump over right now and get Conrad on the line. Enjoy getting to know him and his success story. So, Conrad, welcome to the podcast. Good to see you, man.
It's great to be here, Jim.
We met just a few days ago in Orlando, and I can't wait to dive into some of your impressions from the conference. But more interestingly, I'd love to get into your story if you're ready.
Yeah, definitely. So I
Let's
first
go.
discovered e-commerce a long time ago on eBay, probably 2002, 2003. I worked
Hmm.
as a police officer in Pleasant Prairie, Wisconsin, which just so happened to have a Jelly Belly, like a factory distribution center. So from there, you could buy these jelly beans that weren't perfect. They're called belly flops. And I noticed that you could fit, I think it was 2 or 3 bags of them into a priority mail envelope from the postal service
Right.
and sell those on eBay for probably 150% markup. And the thing that differentiated my sales on eBay from other people is I took made a listing for each set of bags that I had, because some people would just say, "This is a representation of what you get." Well, some of the bags, are all buttered popcorn, and then somebody
Right.
gets those belly flops and they're like, "Well, that's not what I wanted." Well, mine were, "These are the exact ones you get," so there
You
was a
took a
premium
picture
for
of the
that.
individual bags so people
Correct.
knew what they were getting into. That's great. Belly flops. I've never heard that.
Mhm.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, that was great when it worked, and there really was no restriction on the weight that you could, as long as they fit in that, envelope, and I would just tape that envelope extra,
Mhm.
and they'd go out priority mail, so people were really happy to get them quickly as well.
So as far back as 20 years ago, you got a taste, pardon the pun, of
Yeah.
e-commerce and what it could
Yes,
potentially turn into, right? But it sounds like that kind of ran its course. And so take the story.
it did. So I looked at a lot more. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad and looked a lot more into real estate. We bought our first rental in that Wisconsin area right before the market crashed, and it was in a
2007,
really,
8.
yeah,
Mhm.
oh 06, I think we bought it. The market started crashing. It was in a tough part of town, even though our realtor probably was not happy with us. I want to say we saw 50 to 60 properties before buying that one. And it still ended up being a financial mistake that we didn't get rid of until last year or 2022.
Man, I've been there, done that. I did it with about 7 houses, and I would say the 1 or 2 that I was smart with, that I was fortunate, made up for the others, but barely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a game for the faint of heart for sure. People glamorize real estate, but it's an easy way to lose a lot of money if you
For
don't.
sure. And
Yep.
there's no quick way out unless you're, getting people to owner finance, or you just have a ton of capital. There's not like a quick way out to leave your job. And that's was kind of always the hope, to have time to spend with my family, because I didn't have that. But my dad worked hard 6 days a week painting houses. So I didn't have that time, and I wanted to give that time to my family and my kids.
Oh, good
Um,
for you. That's a bit of your why. Well, since we're
yes.
there, just tell me a little bit about your family. I'm like I said, I met you a few days ago, but we only had a few brief moments together. I'd love to hear more about your
Sure.
background there.
So I met my wife just after high school, Valerie, and we've been married for 19 years. I have a
Good for you.
14-year-old daughter, a 7-year-old daughter, and a 5-year-old son. The 14-year-old managed to get into the school system until, I'm going to say, 7 years old, and then we started homeschooling. I was a big proponent of that, and then the other two have just been homeschooled by me the whole time. So it was another huge why. Just be around for the kids, be able to homeschool them, kind of instill our values into the children.
That's beautiful, man. Yeah, and homeschool has become so mainstream now.
Mhm. We're
Even back
seeing.
when, we've got married kids and a grandkid at this point, but we started homeschooling, 25 years ago plus. And it wasn't quite as mainstream then, but it was starting to be. Now it's very much, you've got all the resources, and we're huge proponents and advocates for homeschoolers. And I think it fits very well. And you can probably start to attest to this because I know you've gone full time e-commerce now. That the homeschool slash e-commerce lifestyle, man, just it complements each other so well. And that's what we did with our family. And I love to see you on a similar road, man. It's our kids have just are tremendous adults because of the homeschool slash entrepreneurial home that they were raised in. I think that was a big part of it. And they've got an awesome mom who was their teacher too, which really helped.
Mhm. Yeah, you know what? My oldest kid works with me. The youngest ones put labels on boxes, and they're thrilled, but my oldest kid has said a few times, like, "Dad, if we get a warehouse, I wanna be the manager of it." So,
That's
they're seeing
awesome.
that there's a whole different way to run life and not have to be somebody's employee. You can
Mhm.
definitely do this. You can do it on the side, or you can make a full business of it, like we have.
Yeah, that's tremendous. Yeah, all of our kids are involved in one way or another in our businesses. One of them is an entrepreneur who started a landscaping company. I worked with him all day yesterday, actually. He needed some extra help. It's nice to have the flexibility. Yep. A free labor, hardworking guy in his 50s anytime you need it. And we cranked out some great stuff yesterday, but all that they're all still close, very entrepreneurial. Yeah, the benefits. I could easily turn this podcast episode into the benefits of homeschool slash entrepreneurship. I won't do it, but I do encourage you to. It's something worth considering. We've got a lot of those families in our community for those who want to check that out a little bit more. They've got a lot of advocates for that lifestyle. But well, let's keep
Definitely.
this story back to e-commerce if we could. And
Sure.
so we took a little break in there. The real estate thing didn't quite pan out.
Right.
Jelly bean thing kind of ran its course.
Yep.
Pick it up from there.
So from there, one of my dream jobs was to be a police officer in Las Vegas. So I applied, ended up getting that position. We moved over there and we stayed there for 7 years with a wonderful department, just had great experiences. I mean, it's just the kind of people that you want to work with and have a
Wow.
career in that type of in that line of work.
Man, that's great to hear. I have tremendous respect for anyone military or police service, but to say you wanted to go to Vegas, which to me is like the capital of crazy, and serve and protect in that
Yep,
environment where people literally come to hope to get away with a bunch of stupid stuff they'll probably never do again, and you're there
it's true.
as the line in the sand.
Yep.
That sounds like a crazy gig to me. I bet you've got 1,000 stories.
A lot. Many of them not podcast appropriate, but
Yeah, of
there's
course.
seriously crazy is about right.
Yeah,
The
well,
right way
thank
to
you for
describe it.
serving, and it's very
You're welcome.
international too, just
Hmm.
the stuff you have to navigate, I can't even imagine. You could probably start a podcast and just talk about that and
Oh,
do
for
well.
sure. For
Wow.
sure. So that we had our first kiddo, Aubrey, while we were in Vegas, and by the time she was 5 years old, we really decided we didn't want her in the school system out
Mhm.
there. Homeschooling still wasn't an option. We didn't think about that until we moved back to Wisconsin. And then my wife was really kind of longing for her family to get back to them, especially now with the 5 year old. So I ended up moving them back first. It was really hard to give up the job with the Metro Police Department, but I stayed out in one of a coworker's casita just to get another. It's like a house on a property on somebody else's property. So they let me stay there rent free, and then I ended up moving back a month later after giving that position up. Took a private job. The company ended up going broke, so I ended up going back to being a police officer in a small village in Wisconsin. That's where I met Stacy Kelsey. She was my supervisor. She's the wife of one of your guys' coaches, Joe.
Yeah, Stacy and
Um,
Joseph, a great podcast episode. We'll stick a link in the show notes maybe. It's just she's one of the favorite I don't wanna say characters for some reason, I almost said characters, like, but one of the favorite personalities
sure.
from this for me, because she and my wife are about the same size. You're not supposed to tell a woman's weight, but like they're not big. Let's just put it that way.
Right.
They're little people. But she was in the SWAT, like learning, and you were one of her trainers teaching her how to take down guys twice her
Yes.
size,
And
and
she got to use it.
yeah,
There
and
was
she'd
never
used
any
it
fear.
some
Yeah.
intense situations, but she wanted to be home, be with her kids, and
Hmm.
now, yeah, like you said, well, Joseph is the guy that's leading up our Walmart training that's coming out now, and he spoke at our recent conference, and yeah, Joe and Stacy, just great couple, great family, working very closely with them, and I love that you're kind of a prodigy of their influence for your
Yes.
story.
Big time.
Yeah,
So with Stacy, she would bring up oftentimes like talking about the business. Like, what's this business? She'd say we sell things on Amazon and on Walmart. I'm like that. Just though a lot of it was clearance items still, or that's what I would hear about. I'm like that doesn't sound like a business. No, I don't understand calling it a business. And then one day, just going through looking at that seller app, she's like, this is what we did last year. And I looked at the numbers, said, whoa, like, no, we don't get to keep all that. I said, right, I understand that, but you sold that much in a year. Oh yeah, yeah. Joe's been like building this thing up from the ground, and we were a few years in. He's kind of have it figured out now. So I think she saw how interested I was, and they came back to me and just proposed that, hey, if you want to try, there's really no risk. You can go buy things, you can sell through us on our account, and we'll just do a profit split.
mhm,
And I did. I started initially. I kind of did that clearance model, right? I'd go in, and the best store was a farming store, a couple of them, where they had a certain brand of boots that was reduced to 25% of its original price, so 75% off. Talking $40 for boots that sell about 160, $170, and we'd be selling them on his account for a good $140. So
right,
get to keep another 60, $70 that we would profit split, which was insane to me.
yeah,
Tested that out a few times, and then it ended up being going from to different cities with these farm stores and picking up as taking cart loads of these boots out. Like, how many do you have? Everyone that's not damaged or that the box is in good condition, I want them all. First I
right,
was checking sizes, like very thoroughly, trying to figure out the reviews on Keepa, but ultimately they all sold. Even if
right.
it's for a little bit less, they sold, and they'd still make 100%. And doing that with them, I started researching a lot more about selling on Amazon, and I came across your community, and that was just an eye opener. Another thing where it was really like risk free. I think at the time, maybe $29 a month to sign up and cancel anytime. I signed up, and the community just walked you through 0 to 10K and then the next step and next step. Like, the possibilities are endless here. And then how they did, pick a brand, look for bundles, and then look for things that are outside of the norm. Like, I wouldn't pay this for the price, even with the convenience. A lot of us, I think, even in this community, will go out to the store and pick these things up. But you start seeing a bundle of 11 tins of dog food, and it's selling for each tin's $1 in the store, but we're selling them for 30 some odd dollars in there. So that was one of my first bundles. Then there was a microwave meal that you can get, again, just looking for a brand name that you find at Walmart, or like one of the big home improvement stores sold food by us. I just started looking, and I said, "Oh my, these 12 of these meals are selling for $60. Doesn't make sense. They're $2.12 for one of these meals." So I started doing those, and then ran into issues with the G10 things later, but those were very, like you call them, replens, right?
Yeah.
Very easy to replenish, even though
Right.
it was sometimes kind of a pain to pack up 11 or 12 things. That kind of kept the competition lower. So there's always a demand for these items, and as long as I can get them and start bundling them, and then, like I said, I started having my big kid, my 14-year-old, probably 12 at the time, help me, and that started growing the business. But I got really interested at that point into having my own store, because it was awesome working with Joe and Stacy. But then I started seeing that this could actually be the way out of a full-time career. They did it, there's no reason that I couldn't do it. And about that time, Stacy had let me know that she's considering leaving this career to also work full time with Joe. So that just kind of cemented that in. Like, she's doing
Gotcha.
it, she can do it. She's leading the charge before me. I think it's time to grow my business, open up my own store, and get after it as well.
So here we are, spring of 2024. That would have been, I'm just kind of going from memory here. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're back in what, 2021 or so with that story?
I think she left in 22, because I left in
2022.
September of 23. I think she
Okay.
left about a year before me.
Because we interviewed her, I think it might have been just before she left. She was talking about leaving, and then they went full time shortly thereafter. And again, we'll stick a link to that episode in the show notes. But that's great that while they were getting excited and started to make this new leap, and I do remember this about the story, that she was very missed. So you could probably attest
Mhm.
to that. That she was a, it was a, those were some hard shoes to fill when she basically retired from the force,
Yep.
and because she was SWAT, right?
So she was a negotiator for what we would call our SWAT team.
Right. That's incredible. Yeah. But stepped away to go full-time e-commerce. They've been going at it ever since. And Amazon, Walmart, family business. Every time I see them, their background is, boxes and kids and
Oh yeah.
activity. Yeah, just a great family. I love that was your introduction into this community. And yeah, so it took you about a year to leave after she was gone, but
Mhm.
as of, you said, September of 23.
Yep, September 2023, and it's funny because she left, and that opened up a supervisor position. I not at the beginning of my police career, but kind of towards, when I came to Heartland, the police department. I 7 years ago, 8 years ago, I started really wanting to be a supervisor, so that opened up that position to become a supervisor, and I put in for it and got that. The unfortunate part was new supervisor, third shift. I
Hmm.
didn't mind, but that was a struggle for my family. It was really big. But my team was great, and I really really enjoyed supervising. Supervising and training, it was fun, but the family, the calling to be with them was just greater. So it's still hard to leave, but looking back at it, I mean, 100% the correct choice.
Yeah, I'm so glad you were able to do it, and I think I'd like to dive next into how you have been able to do it. Like, while you were working as an officer, thank you
Hmm.
again for being in that role, man. It's
Of course.
a lot of respect for you putting your life on the line, putting on that uniform, taking that oath, man. It's a big deal to me in our house
Thank
as
you.
well. But you've stepped away from that now. But how big were you able to grow your business, your e-commerce business, on the side before you made the leap? Like, what
Sure.
get talk us through as much of the numbers as you're comfortable.
Yeah, definitely. So my goal, I thought that I could probably leave the department when I made it to about 30,000 a month. By the time that I left, I was approaching 40,000. The margins were still really high there because some of those goods were, the shoes that I was getting, the boots, and then I expanded that to other boots and like name brand, like New Balance shoes that I would also get from the farm stores. That most people just don't go, to a farm or a fleet store to pick up New Balance shoes or Nike shoes. So I was getting margins in about the 24% area, which have now come down from there. But I was at roughly 40,000 when I left. After I started doing this full time, I grew that to just over 80,000 by Christmas of last year. So December of last year was about 80, 82, 81,000. And now in October of last year, I already started making the switch over big time to wholesale. So a lot of that was still the clearance stuff, and replens were great. I even, after listening to the proven bundles training, I ended up making a couple unique items for myself and making a couple bundles. One of those is selling great still. I just actually reordered 250 of my unique items because they're selling a good 100 a month, and the price, I was running out of stock, so I bumped the price up $3 to almost $70, and lo and behold, people are still buying it just as quickly.
Yeah,
So,
that's amazing. Well, tell me
yeah,
about that bundle without creating any competitors for yourself.
sure,
You've got a
sure.
unique item, and let me just, for the listener's sake, break down that model for just a moment. It's putting popular, well-known, easy to sell items that are available in any retail store or easily sourced into a package along with a harder to source item that's ideally under your own brand. So it's you got a unique item and then a popular item, and you can set up your own ACE and then your own listing on Amazon that's hard to, or possibly even impossible for other sellers to compete with. So you've had some success with one of those. Tell us a little bit about that bundle and kind of how you discovered the components, and talk me through that process. And by the way, before I turn you loose on that, Conrad, that's one of the modules inside the Proven Amazon course. We talk you through the process of doing this, and it's something we coach as well. But yeah, go ahead.
It is. I mean, I owe the success of that bundle directly to the proven Amazon course. And actually, I think one of the biggest realizations for me was that I didn't have to have, the registered trademark right away to test out the item or the bundle. And I want to say that one of the monthly trainings, one of the ongoing trainings, is where one of the ladies had mentioned that hey, you can do a non-registered brand. You still get your unique item, get your logo, which I made on Canva. It was pretty simple, really. Had them print it on the item. I got them, I think, to the people that make, the promotional company that make the item to cut the minimum down to half. So I want to say I bought something like 100 pieces of this, which is still, I mean, it's putting yourself out there financially, but by that time things were going really well, and I could always pivot and use it in a different grocery item, the unique item, or in a different grocery bundle. So I got those, ordered them. Like I said, use the proven brand building and bundling. And the bundle that I used was actually one that got shut down for a G10 issue, which if some of the listeners don't know, Amazon maybe a year ago started going through and sweeping through products in their catalog where like the G10, the global identifier for a product like the UPC number, didn't match the brand.
It
So
was
this
mainly in
bundle,
groceries, mainly on multi-packs. Yeah.
mhm,
It took a bit of a beating there for
yes,
a couple months, and it shut down a lot of ASINs for a lot of sellers who were in grocery for sure.
it did. So I went off of that. I said, you know what? I still have these items in stock there. I don't know if this listing's ever going to come back. I'm going to recall them and build bundles now with my unique item. So I did the photographs, went to Walmart, got one of the little ring lights, got like a white poster board, like the folding like you would use for a science fair project. Put my bundle in there, did the photographs myself. They came out pretty good. Put
Nice.
the bundle on there, and then just did the pay per click. Just did a little bit of advertising. I want to say only $3 per day. And at first, I probably started a little high in the 15 cent per click range. Might have taken 2, 3 weeks to really get it going. So a little bit of costs for advertising, and then it took off when people finally discovered it. I do no advertising for it now, and I'm having a hard time keeping them in stock because it
That's
is
so
it's
great.
still work. It's going
Way to
through.
pivot. Way
Yeah.
to pivot. For if someone missed it, you had some excess inventory.
Hmm.
And that just illustrates beautifully, Conrad. If I could just hop on a soapbox for a moment, I'll hop down
Sure.
as fast as I can, I promise. But when these challenges come along, we've said it for years. I've been doing this 22 years, and I've seen a pattern. Your mindset in those moments matters. I mean, you've been in far more intense situations than having Amazon cancel a few of your listings. But you
Right.
get in some of the Facebook groups, and even in ours sometimes, people act like the sky is falling, the world is ending, and they're on their deathbed because Amazon changed something.
Sure.
But every time those changes happen, and you just illustrated it beautifully, almost effortlessly, but it deserves a little bit of recognition here. You just pivoted. Okay, I'm bringing the inventory back. What am I going to do with this extra inventory? Well, it was selling well before. Let's make it into a bundle. Off you go.
Yep.
Beautiful. Well done, man. I love it.
The beauty of that now though is I've never had it's not even a registered brand still. It's not trademarked. I've never had another person jump on that listing. Haven't
That's
had it.
phenomenal. That's phenomenal. And there's a bit of a risk there. If other
Sure.
people do hop on it, if you're not trademarked, not brand registered, it's a little harder to get them off. They could
Right.
probably more easily duplicate it than you'd like. That's the benefit of building a brand. And there's other benefits too. But yeah, to your point, here you are rocking through the process, selling something you've been, for long, it will have been a year and it's doing great for you.
Hmm.
Well done.
Yeah. So with that, like I said, I've started switching over to wholesale a lot more. Not because the other, there's anything wrong with OA, but at the same time, we moved everything out of the office in our house, which is really for kids watching TV or kind of playing. And I started bringing in racks to hold, inbound and outbound OA items. And then all of a sudden, my desk appeared in the dining room because there was no room for a desk with all the things coming in, just boxes upon boxes. And then my wife comes home a different day, and now there's a wire shelf just in the hallway because
Right.
there's just not enough room.
Yeah.
And that's at the time that we're starting to hit those 60, 70,000 on mostly OA. So I looked around and I was having trouble with the prep center that I trusted and started using out west, where all of a sudden I saw things are disappearing or not getting logged in as having ever been sent, and the retailers are flat out telling me 100% they investigated. This is shipped. Here's the tracking number. Every item is there, and it wasn't things that I was having issues with at my home. So there's a ton of stuff I was shipping over by me, but some of the higher priced items I like shipping out west to where in Oregon they had no sales tax. So if I buy, for instance, I was still doing a lot of shoes. I was comfortable shipping those out. $50 purchase price on shoes, I save the sales tax over by us. So I'm getting the prep done for free and maybe saving another dollar on top of it. So I was using them for that and some apparel, but things started to go missing. So how do I make this just easier on all of us, not have a mess at home and then not have to worry about this, like the OA prep center.
Yeah.
Um,
Missing inventory. Yeah.
yeah, it just got it it wasn't a good situation. I really didn't like it. I wanted to trust those people, and it was someone that I saw online. Kind of one of the bigger sellers was a proponent of this place. I'm a business partner for it, and I wanted to trust them, but things kind of went south. So
Yeah. Yeah, and people used to ask us, "Hey, Jim, could you rate all the prep centers?" There's 150 of them, and you could get some kind of ranking system.
right.
Well, in my experience, having done this a while, the first ever prep center was birthed out of a mastermind group that we did 12 years ago, right? And that was the first one. So I've seen so many of them come up, and I can tell you this, they all have their people who love them, and they
Hmm.
all have their people who aren't a big fan because, big lost shipment or negotiations went
Sure.
south or they got my stuff out too late for Q4 and I'll never use them again. It's just, things are always in flux. And a lot of times good people don't build good systems, and you face a hard consequence because of you're aligned with them. But yeah, not to throw anyone under the bus, and I appreciate not
Nope.
necessarily
Yeah.
naming anyone by name, but there's a lot of them out there. Sometimes you got to
Hmm.
pivot, and
Yep. So that
good
was
job
time.
again pivoting.
Yeah. It was time just to go with what you said, because I see that a lot in the community, and that's what the community on Facebook is great at when people are struggling to hold each other up, and you can kind of hear that at the Proven conference, which was wonderful. And I wish I had gone to ones before this. We'll definitely be back next year. Is just the things that people go through their lives and keep pushing forward. I mean, that's the difference. That is just one foot after the other. That is the difference in making it in this business. As
Yeah.
long as you just don't let that, that one thing destroy you, because it's easy. It's easy to get depressed or down, but you got to get back up. You just got to go one foot after the other and keep going to that next day, find that next item or get through that, whatever you have. And inauthentic, I was suspended on for the Inform Act just out of nowhere on vacation. Was it last year, at the beginning of last year? I think it was March of last year, where we're trying to enjoy our time in Florida. And I wanted to use the nights like I do from like 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. to source. And I go on and there it is, suspended for some Inform Act thing. No, got to schedule an interview, tried to do that, then the link wasn't working, suspended longer. So it was like 3 days of my vacation were totally stressful
It's
trying to
always
figure.
on vacation. It's
Mm-hmm.
crazy. It's happened to me
Calling them.
twice in my 22-year career. It's like, okay, I'm finally gonna get away. I'm gonna turn it all off, check in a little bit in the evenings, maybe. And my story was not dissimilar. I had about a 10,000 person email list. This has been 20 years ago, and we're taking all our little kids to the middle of nowhere in the mountains where I had to go to a cafe to even hook up to the internet kind of thing. And I went to log in. I was going to send out a little newsletter update to everybody. I logged in, my account didn't exist and it was the weekend and they have no weekend customer support. So 2 of the
Oh
4 days
no.
of our vacation, we got there on a Friday and this is like a Saturday morning. 2 of the 4 days, I am just convinced that the business is done. That was a big part of what I was doing was,
Mm-hmm.
the email list and selling product and to that list. And I'm like, oh, that's done. That's a good 50% of our income.
Wow.
and and then come Monday morning, oops, sorry, yeah, that happened to a handful of users. Everything's fine. But the lesson in that was that's been the same case every time I've panicked or seen other people panic, sky is falling. Oh no, this is terrible. I've come to learn that without, I'm not exaggerating, 99 point something percent of the time, it's fine within a couple days.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, it's everything's back. Okay, it's all good. No one's out there trying to grill good people and
Right.
just shut them down. No one has that for a job description, right? Sometimes mistakes happen. They're
Yeah. And
corrected.
I mean,
Take some time.
Amazon, they need us at this point with how we stock their shelves, and we
Yep.
do so much of
Yeah.
their shelf without any risk to them. Really, we're
Mhm.
they're taking storage fees for us stocking their shelves so that they
Yep.
can serve their customers with
Well,
one
I,
and
I
two
had
day
a
shipping.
senior vice president tell me to my face at a lunch that he invited me to. He said, "You resellers are so much better at stocking our shelves than we are. We don't want to do that."
Right.
Right?
Right.
That's now it's been a few years back, but that still holds true. And Amazon does try to keep prices low and order 10,000 units of the most popular items, sure. But there's a billion ASINs on Amazon. Brian and Robin Joy shared recently on a podcast episode that if you were to count to a billion, or if you were to look at every ASIN in Amazon's catalog one at a time, one per second, it'd take you 30 plus years. That's how
Wow.
many ASINs there are. And
That's
that's
not
going to
surprising.
be a bigger number tomorrow. So there's opportunity and empty shelf space at Amazon that needs filled. It's so much opportunity there. Yeah. So keeping a positive mindset is huge. And this is just one business model, right? I mean,
Right.
so far all we've talked about is arbitrage, scanning barcodes, finding stuff
Hmm.
you can, buy easier. And you may not get any more inventory when you go back next time, but hey, let's flip it and make some cash. We talked about replens. We
Hmm.
talked about bundles. Those are 3 of about 20 different business models we have around here that are proven and time tested, and they're not all necessarily tied to Amazon either. So you can start to really diversify. But you're doing a great job. I'm talking too much, man. Let's keep your story going. I want to hear more.
Sure. So yeah, I started switching to the wholesale model. I watched your guys' video on Wholesale, and then I also a big help was the Amazon Lit group. I followed those guys again, like the people in this community just in general, but both in the Proven community and like the Amazon Lit, their stories are, it's amazing. It's people that have been just at the bottom of their lives personally, and they'll come up here and talk about how they climbed out of that hole that they were in and then built a beautiful business that's now benefiting other people in the community and their family. So watching those guys, and I joined their course as well, helped me start finding suppliers, which don't let anybody kid you, it is hard to find reputable suppliers. I know you've talked about it as well, and with some of these suspension issues got to make sure that the suppliers we're getting are big, like nationally known suppliers that you can trust. You got to vet them. You got to look at these maps. Do the Google drive by. Is there an actual warehouse where? Because
Right.
I've seen these where even the pictures. We were actually coming back from the Proven conference. My wife was driving, and there was one supplier that I thought looked really good, a grocery supplier, and I was trying to build that out. But the pictures just looked weird of their whole group, the president, the vice president, whatever, their
Look like
marketing
stock
people.
photos, right?
They did. And I did a
Yeah.
reverse search, and sure as heck they were stock photos.
Yeah.
It was actually called, like, the one photo of the main guy was CEO of company. And you can get the stock photo. So all of them, and I
Yeah.
noticed there was no address for the company. There's no
Right.
phone number for the company.
Right.
Like, that got really weird. And then you can't even do that Google drive by. So
Yeah.
those are out. But once you
Another good way
find,
to check the validity too is just to ask the brand itself
sure.
if they
Yep.
sell New Balance shoes. Send an email to New Balance to resell it, to their customer information. It's like, hey, I'm getting ready to buy your shoes from this source. Are they a legitimate authorized distributor, or am I
Definitely.
taking a risk? And they'll tell you.
Yep. And
And
that's
that's a great way to do it. Hey, we'll get back to the episode in just a moment, but I want to tell you about today's sponsor. If you are an Amazon seller who has more than just a handful of listings on Amazon, I can almost guarantee you that Amazon owes you money that you don't even know you're owed. There's all kinds of little reimbursements and rebates and refunds that Amazon owes you that unless you're actively going in and tracking them down, you are not getting all the money that you have coming to you. And today's sponsor does that for you. They only get paid if you get paid. And their first $400 of reimbursements are completely free. They don't charge you anything. They just prove that they're good at what they do. They're Amazon approved. They've been doing this a long time. They're a great friend of our community. Many sellers in our community use them. The company is Gitada, and I'm going to give you a link. Write this down: silentjim.com/reimburse. That link gets you the special offer that they have for our community, silentjim.com/reimburse. Be sure to tell them that I sent you, and you will enjoy the benefits of having someone else finding all the money that Amazon owes you. Go check them out now. Let's get back to the episode. Send an email to New Balance to resell it, to their customer information. It's like, hey, I'm getting ready to buy your shoes from this source. Are they a legitimate authorized distributor, or am I
definitely.
taking a risk? And they'll tell you.
Yep. And
And that's a great way to do it.
that's also a great way to find suppliers, is if you just go through your catalog and look at things that are selling well. Say it's like a shampoo brand, reach out to the company. Not all of them will get back to you, or will get back to you with their suppliers, but I would say I have probably a 25% success rate in getting some really
Mhm.
big, big suppliers from the actual companies
Yeah,
without any questions asked. One of them was,
sure.
hey, if you're located stateside, we want you to talk to the VP. And I called, I talked to the VP, which is, like, that's not my forte, right? I don't really want to be, like you guys were saying, an introvert, and you just kind of got to get over it. So it was hard to make the phone call to a VP of a very big personal care company and talk to him. And they immediately, when they found out that I sold on Amazon, which I didn't lead with, but immediately shut it down. So, just going on from what I've heard from other people, hey, can you tell me why? Can you tell me a little bit more about that? So it was a product was being sent in by most likely OA or RA person with a sticker added to the product saying it was organic, and the UPC covered up with a fake UPC sticker. So the
Mm,
customer that received this item reached out to the company, and the company had to make it right, and they ended up sending the company, or the customer, a bunch of free items, and he was just fed up with it. So he's like, yeah, I understand, but I'm
mm,
going to be touching this product. I'm going to be handling it. We're going to be getting it from directly from your company to ensure that it is the correct product. We have it's not a side job for me. Like, this is a family run business. We probably talked for 10 minutes afterwards. He's 100% no on any kind of Amazon sales. But I've already sent him two other emails, been following up, and it's been quiet still, but I just want him to know that unless he tells me to go away, I'm not going to go away, and it's a legitimate business. And I would love to help these guys sell, to help clean up their listing, if that's something I can do for them. Because you know what, the listing, or a lot of their listings, are still on Amazon. They're
right.
still there. People are still selling them, and you could
Huge.
partner with these companies and both help them out, potentially get people off the listings. I mean, you can at least attempt to and sell the correct product. They can trust
Mhm.
you, and you can have a business that both helps you and them. So just
Yep.
something I'm working on the side.
I love it. That you've just described perfectly the PPP model,
Mhm.
proven product partnering. It's a module inside the proven Amazon course, another model. I love it. You're really diversifying here. But all those brands that you run into who are frustrated with Amazon, which come to find out is about 95% of all the brands
Oh
in the
yeah.
world, in the US especially.
Mhm.
You can ask any of them, hey, how do you feel about Amazon? All of them are either frustrated, confused, conflicted. Some of them have it dialed in and they're doing it themselves and they feel like it's going pretty well. Most brands can't say that. That's a
No.
problem that we in this community, listeners to this podcast, students of the Proven Amazon course, are very well equipped to help these brands tackle and manage. And that can be a service. It doesn't even have to be your Amazon account. You could help them set up their own account, help them get trademark, make their brand registry set up and good professional listings and monitor the listings for unauthorized resellers and that sort of thing. A whole nother opportunity there if they're frustrated. So I love that you just said, hey, if they're not going to let me sell it, there's got to be a reason. Let's go find out why. And maybe I can help them because this would do well on Amazon. And it's a no lose proposition as well. And it doesn't cost them anything. You may
Correct.
charge them a setup fee or something. Some people are starting to do that. Like, $5,000, I'll get it all set up for you, which, a brand's going to pay that in a heartbeat if you can make the Amazon problem go away and then just collect a commission on sales. It's a whole business model. And yeah, there's people who do just that, only that. They were at the
Definitely.
conference.
Yep. Heard him at the conference. Absolutely.
Yeah. Did you go to that session?
I did. Yep. The
Yeah.
trio, I can't remember all 3 of their names, but that was
Jonathan,
just
John, and Abe. Yeah.
there you go. Yep. That was a
Yeah.
wonderful
Three great
story.
coaches on our team, three great guys, great
Yeah, and
families.
one person coaching the other, then saying like, "Oh, I can really use this guy on the team," and then the other
Yep.
coach coaching the now new student, saying, "Oh, well, we really need this on our team too." So
Mhm.
they just kind of naturally found each other through the coaching program, which
Yeah.
wonderful story.
We've heard that so many times where
Hmm.
I tell coaches all the time when they come on the team, I say, yeah, you're going to get paid. We pay more than most people do in the industry for good coaches. But the real benefit is going to be the incredibly fully vetted people who come through this program, who resonate with the values we have around here, who are all in, and the creative opportunities that they drop in your lap because you're now the most trusted liaison in this community for them. They're not going to call me, they're going to call you. And those opportunities are just going to be laid at your feet more often than you probably even are able to pursue them. So it's one of the
Yeah.
job benefits is just these business models just kind of pop to life in this community because of the connecting. You start connecting good people, like-minded people with, business integrity, opportunities just float. Yes, that we're seeing a lot of that opportunity right now in the space, the proven product partnering, helping brands get on Amazon. It's not a rocket science model either. It's just not. It can be learned fairly quickly and a great new income stream for you. So yeah, I hope this works out great for you. If there's anything we can do to help out, please keep me updated on how it goes. Man, I
Sounds
love that
good.
persistence thing too. One of my favorite movies is Shawshank Redemption, and one of my favorite parts of that movie is when what's his name? Andy starts writing letters every day or every week, I think it was, asking for a few dollars to start a library at the prison. And finally, they're like, please stop writing us letters. Here's a check, right? Like, yeah, persistence pays, man. Just stick with it. Make sure they know you're sincere. You're not just another seller trying to slap labels on
Right.
their product and create a, pirated listing to give you an advantage.
Yeah.
You're a serious business. I love it.
Yeah, because that's frustrating. You can hear the frustration in their
Of
voice. Just like you
course.
said, that's probably for most of them. I mean, there's definitely unscrupulous people, making sales on there, and it's just unfortunate because it's a negative for all of us.
Yeah. Well, Amazon's doing a decent job of weeding them out. They're getting
Mhm.
better. They do throw some baby out with the bathwater from time to time, but you got to keep in mind they've got thousands of scammers trying to penetrate their walls every day, and they're going to make some mistakes, and
Definitely.
they're going to punch some good guys, but they'll dust them off, pick them up, and get them going again as soon as they can.
Mhm.
That's just part of the game of e-commerce. But I wouldn't mind spending a little bit of time on your impression of the conference. Here we are, just a few days after, as we're recording this, our 12th annual event, the Proven Conference, which happened in Orlando, Florida. You were there along with the Kelseys. I saw
Yep.
you guys roaming the halls together a little bit. So, just what was your impression? We don't have to spend a whole lot of time here. I'm just curious to talk me through what you observed and just tell me about it.
It was just refreshing and energizing. I think that would be the best way to describe the conference in general, being around like-minded people, people who are motivated. Like, I've shared my story with other people so many times, and they get excited for a little bit, and then there's fumes. You
Mhm.
can't get them going. But these are the people at the conference who have done it and are doing it. And then to hear the stories are just so inspirational. It's amazing. Again, the sometimes tragedies people have gone through in their lives and have picked up and kept going. That, like you said, the little things that happen to us aren't so important as long as we keep going. And then see, like, I listened to Trey, which was awesome. Hearing him coming from that entrepreneurial background, he's younger, but he has so much to offer in terms of, you don't have to feel strange about, having people pay you money for the skills and the mindset, all the knowledge you have that they want. That actually, makes it even makes people more likely to follow up and to commit to something, is that, things aren't free. Yeah, like Oscar's story again, and just incredible people that offer so much knowledge and information. It's hard to now put all that into the business. I think Joe Kelsey posted something like that in the group, that there's so much information there that, one of the missteps could be trying to now funnel all that into your business at once when you come back.
Right.
And that's just from the sessions you can attend. And then
Yeah.
there's still, there's 4 or 5, 6 sessions going on at one time, and you attend that one and take a bunch of notes, and you still got to come back, and when these things get posted online,
Mhm.
gather all the other wealth of knowledge from everybody else who was there. And of course, just meeting people instead of, being behind the computer, because it gets hard. I mean, we don't get out and meet up with groups of people. I don't have a place that I go to and work. I work at home, and usually it's 10 p.m. to about 2 a.m. So everybody's just down. Just being around that community, seeing the excitement, getting to share your story and speak to other people. It's a necessity. I think if you want to really make it in this business, that going to the Proven Conference is one of the things that is just going to take you up to the next level.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for that. I always like hearing the impression of especially first time attendees, and it just tells me that we've maintained that same level of enthusiasm and excitement, continuing to attract people who take this business seriously, who have an abundance mindset. That's my favorite way to kind of sum up just this abundance mindset. Newbies often come in and I go, "Why is everyone so willing to help me?
Right.
Like, what's the incentive here?" And I was in a mastermind group here just about an hour or so ago before we hopped on this, explaining to someone who was new, kind of questioning that, like, what's the incentive for you guys to just so generously pour so many resources into the same questions over and over and over, the same basic question? And I said, here's how I answered it. See if this resonates with you. But I said, even if I was a money grubbing, selfish tyrant who hated humans, right? Let's just say, let's assume that's who I was. Hopefully I'm not. No one thinks I'm that, but let's assume I was. It would still serve me well to encourage the new sellers to join us, not necessarily in competition, although that some people may see it that way. But this blue ocean's expanding so fast that
Hmm.
that's not rational. But those new sellers that come in, sure, they have a few basic questions, and sure, you find yourself answering those questions repeatedly, and we build systems to help people with that. But what they bring is a level of synergy and excitement and opportunities and connections and relationships and insights that we would never have otherwise. So I'd say like 1 out of every 10 newbies ends up within just a few months contributing major, significant value to the community in one fashion or another that ripples through and benefits numerous other sellers and numerous other business building warriors. So it's that fuel. Newbies are almost that fuel that keeps the fire burning of ideas and insights. Because once you think you know what you're doing, you stop asking silly questions. I'm using air
Hmm.
quotes. 'Cause like, I've been
Right.
doing this too long. I can't ask a silly question about Keepa, right? That ego starts to pop in. Newbies don't have the ego. They're not afraid to introduce these new topics. And the benefit of that is often new discoveries, new insights. And I can't tell you the dozens and dozens of times that that's held true in this community. So, yeah, I love to hear from new sellers. I love for them to experience this community and see the abundance mindset that's not just coming out of a, hey, let's all make more money, but we really do want to see families experience, just like you experienced with Joseph, the Kelsey family, right? And Stacy. They were having they were experiencing something that they wanted others to experience. And you
Yep.
took it seriously. You picked up the ball and ran with it. It's not easy, but there's a system here. And here you are. So now you have an incentive. Just as that's what started this whole community. I
Yep.
want this for other families. This is pretty stinking cool. Get to be home with my kids, grow a family. My wife's right here. My kids are right here. We're doing a business together. I'm making more money than I ever would have my other career. Yeah. So I love your perspective on that, man. Thank you for sharing.
And it's so easy. It's exciting. People ask me now. We had from one of the major phone companies come over to do our broadband here, and she asked what I did. So I started explaining, and her eyes just lit up. So we took a break from what was supposed to be, 10 minutes of her showing me the app on the computer and on my phone to test our wireless, to give permissions and whatnot. And she was here for over an hour as I'm showing her, like, this is one of the first things that I sold. Like, I will give new people one of the bundles that I sold that it's just too much work for me now. It's not, there's profit, there's just not enough for me. So I'm like, and then you just go and now just call it store stocking. Now you look through the other people's stuff and you can make a
Mhm,
whole business just off of this.
mhm.
She's like, will you coach me? Like, I've never done it, but I mean, for sure,
I'll give
I'll
you
be
some
able.
help. Sure.
So we exchanged phone numbers. She was supposed to call, I think, 2 weeks later on a Sunday, and she never called. So I'm like, well, if she comes around, she'll come around. But that
Yeah.
it's just, you can see it in this community too. People are so excited about what this has done for them and their families that it's almost hard not to talk about it.
Mhm. Well, you just hit on something else. Again, I've been coaching for 20 years in this industry. And one of the reasons that we charge some money for coaching is because now we know we're dealing with somebody
Yeah.
who's serious and they've put some skin in the game. They're going to take it seriously. They're going to hold themselves accountable. They're vested now, right? Whereas, you hear
Definitely.
from an old high school buddy, it's like, hey, man, show me what you're doing. Like, I want to pick your brain. I want to take you to
Right.
lunch. Like, 95% of the time, it will be a long lunch, and you'll probably end up paying for it anyway, and you'll never hear from them again.
Right.
It's just
That.
I stopped doing that so
Yep.
long ago because, yeah, the enthusiasm is just pours out of you, and sometimes it's, you're kind of, you're casting pearls in the mud a little bit. It's like they're not
Hmm.
they're impressed, they're excited, but, they're gonna get distracted and go back to their normal life. That's a lot of
And
what it takes to be a business building warrior is to choose to not go back to Netflix, not go back to the routine, but start carving a new path and new habits. And very few people are capable of that, unfortunately. It seems like but
they need
you
that
tried, man.
accountability.
You
Yep.
tried.
They need that accountability like you hit on, and I was just blessed with having, I mean, a quasi coach. I basically had a coach that I partnered with, I mean, who's
Mhm.
now a coach for your community.
Yep.
Joe just, I couldn't imagine doing it without the Kelseys, because I had so many questions. I would be at, like a discount store, and I would scan something. I'm like, not 100% sure. Well, Joe was right around the corner. I could just call him. So it's like having a coach, but I was paying him by, splitting a profit with them.
Right. It's a beautiful arrangement. Others in our community have done that before as well.
Yep, and there's accountability there because
Mhm.
he sees my numbers. He knows if I'm not, if he's putting this time into me to
Yeah.
help me and help them, and then all of a sudden nothing's showing up for it. Well,
Hmm.
he knows, like, all every month sales are going up. I'm bringing in more product and prepping it with them. So yeah, that's I think the huge thing with coaching is not only to have somebody answer those questions, and there's going to be a ton of questions, getting the answers quickly, and then being accountable to somebody.
Yeah. Accountability is a big part of it. And then just the opportunity to possibly partner up and
Hmm.
the relationship, the value of relationships. That was part of our keynote speaker's presentation at the Proven Conference. My good friend, Rabbi Daniel Lappin, and he's
Yes.
fond of saying something along the lines of, and I've said it many times myself as well, that I don't need to know the numbers or your business model to know if your business is doing well. I can ask you one simple, seemingly unrelated question and know how your business is doing. And the question is this: in the last 30 to 60 days, how many new people, new relationships have you formed that are going to strategically be mutually beneficial for you, for them, for your business? Give me the names of the people. And if you say, I haven't
Hmm.
really met anyone new lately, your business is struggling. You say,
Yeah.
yeah, I formed a new mastermind. I got a coach. I'm having weekly calls with this guy who's been doing it for a while. Like, okay, there's 4 or 5 new names. Yeah, your business is heading in a good direction, right? You may not see the numbers yet, but those are coming. Those are a trailing indicator of
Definitely.
the relationships and the quality of the relationships that you're building. If you focus there, the numbers will come. The money is inevitable if you
Definitely.
focus there with the right people. So yeah, well said. Accountability, huge, absolutely huge. You can't do it alone. Lone wolves do not survive in e-commerce. I've seen very few exceptions. I've seen a few guys kind of strike it lucky and get into an opportunity and make a lot of money fast and then kind of, fade away and vanish. Rarely does that even happen though. It's the people who are intentional. Relationships, accountability, being part of a community, going to events, that sort of thing. Yeah.
Yep.
Appreciate your insights on that.
100%.
Well, here's an out of left field question, and then I'll see what you got left on your list, and we'll start to wrap this one up. But you served in a leadership role again in law enforcement, and what lessons, if any, have you kind of taken over and borrowed from that chapter to this, if any? Do you see any overlap there in the skill set?
Again, it's huge on accountability and doing whatever you say. So my people knew that if I told them that I would have their back for something, that I would stand up against other leadership. I would bring it up. And that was a big Stacy thing as well. If we feel that our people are doing the right thing and we say we're going to have their back for something, then we're going to do it. So transferring over to this business, if you tell a supplier that if you give me this account, I will do this, because I've had that where people are like, we get 100 emails a day from people who want to sell on Amazon. We're closed to Amazon. I email them back. I say, this is about me, my family. This is a full time career for me. This is why I'm different. This is what I can bring to you, or I promise you. And get the one of them was huge, a gift shop supplier for me. And I had the account next day. So just being accountable and now holding to your word, and whatever you told those people, don't go back on that word.
Man,
It's huge.
great lesson there, dude. Just being willing to not even you don't even have to go the extra mile. Sometimes you have to do is go the extra 10 feet from the
Sure.
herd. The whole herd stops at the fence. Oh, there's a fence here. Can't do anything about
Right.
it. Be the one that sticks their neck through the fence, right?
Yeah.
Like
They said
I'm not talking
no.
about
Okay.
busting the fence down. I'm like, how about a little extra? Prove you're human. Ask
Yep.
for, one of my podcast episodes here. It's been a couple hundred episodes back. Was the superpower any of us have in our pocket at any given time is the phone instead of an email. Like, hey, could I have a 5-minute phone call with you?
Yeah. I met a
5
supplier at Starbucks before because this business allowed us now to move to where I always wanted to live by the water. So we got to move from the Midwest to Florida
Good
so
for
it's
you.
been a month and 4 days. So I'm location independent now. The
Beautiful.
business
Yeah.
didn't struggle. I got to type on the computer. I had a power inverter in the car, and my wife switched turns and drove. I could do my Amazoning. So
Yeah.
it's
That's
yeah,
amazing. That's amazing. But you had a phone call story in there, you said, or a conversation?
oh, I took a supplier out. Well, a supplier wanted to meet me. So I'm like, hey, let's go to Starbucks. And we
Yeah.
met, and we
Yeah.
had food there with my kids. And he's
Yeah.
still following up with me today. Like, oh, the
Beautiful.
type of stuff, they're a national supplier, but a lot of what they sell, unfortunately, is meltable and like
Yeah,
vending machine stuff. So I
sure.
told him, I'm going to keep checking on your things, because he's
Yeah.
actually courting me now. Where at first to get the account it was like,
You were
hey,
courting him.
I'm already working with big grocery suppliers. Again, this is not like a side gig for me. This I'm fully vested in this. Like, we want
Yeah.
to do business. And he wanted to see kind of like some of the stuff we bought. So here's my invoices for the last two. When they start, I mean, he works on commission. They
Mhm.
start seeing like you are a legit person that's buying things in bulk. They want you to have the account. And now again, he's chasing me around like, hey, did you ever find? Did you wait, remember we could just because the price says this on our website, and this is a national company, it's a big company. Like we could bring it down a little bit. Like if you buy in bulk, we can bring it down.
He's courting
So
you because he knows you're legit, and
right,
yeah, the speed of trust accelerates so
big time.
dramatically when it's done face to face.
Yeah, because
There's a
they
10x effect. In email, let's say that's level 1.
mhm,
A phone call isn't level 2, a phone call is level 10. It's
yeah,
10x.
you're
And
a
then
real
being
person.
face to face isn't level 11, it's level 100, 10x face to
Yep.
face. So there's 100 times more likely to win the business if you meet face to face versus sending an email,
Yeah.
right? And
And
that's
they
a lot
see
of the
your
power of these live events too is you've got this 100x factor, right? You're meeting people. Body language is 80% of communications. Females all know this. Guys have to be drug into believing that stat, but it's true. Body language and seeing someone's face and the speed of trust, businesses are built on that.
100% exactly what you said, and that they see your story. Like the supplier saw me with my kids, so you get to see my why. The three kiddos were there. They got, like their orange juice and their chocolate milk, and this is why I'm home. This is why I gave up a very good career, very fruitful, and I enjoyed so that I can be with these guys and grow this, and we can partner to benefit each other, like you were saying, mutually beneficial relationships.
Well, Conrad, if no one's told you this yet, let me be the first to say you're on a leadership journey. I mean, if nothing else, you're not afraid of a leadership role. If I were to say to you, "Hey, when you're in charge, take charge," you don't cower from that. You embrace
No.
that. So we got that. You've got leadership skills that I only wish I had. I mean, you've dealt with situations and intense people and idiots, in ways and scenarios that I'll never even have to imagine. So you've got that. You've got the e-commerce. You got the heart of a teacher. I can't wait to see where you go, and I'm hoping it's part of this community in some leadership role of some kind. I'd be honored to work with you, man. So if no one's told you that or made that observation yet, I'm thrilled to see where you're gonna be a year, 2 years from now, and hopefully it's working side by side with what we're trying to build around here, but it's been great getting to know you. Not to cut you off, but we've got a longer episode at this point, but was there anything you wanted to hit, like did you have any notes, any tips for the listeners, or any questions for me? We kinda need to move to that segment to wrap this one up now.
Sure. Yeah. So I had some notes, but I think we hit almost all of them. For those people who are turning to wholesale, though, one of the biggest tip that I have is once you do that scrape, especially if you're using software to scrape that UPC list, as long as there's enough there. So say you have 6,000 items and the scrape comes back with 200 that are potentially profitable, that should be your sign that it's now time to manually start looking through that catalog, because
Mm,
most of those things that we find is not going to be by UPC, and you guys preach this all the time. Search the title. I use SellerAmp. I use that title search right off of the supplier's webpage. There's my best supplier I have given up on before after numerous scrapes with numerous softwares trying to find profitable products. And I went back and I manually searched and built a cart. It probably took me 3 nights of 4 hours a night. They are easily now, I'm using them in two different locations, and they're easily in excess of 60% of my revenue. Just that
yes.
personal care, health, and beauty supplier, which I would have given up on before.
Yes, and let me just put a little more meat on what you just described from trying to think through the lens of a new seller or someone who's unfamiliar with some of the terminology you just used. There's many tools out there, and we've got one. I'll put a link in the show notes that can help you scrape through a list of products and find potential UPC matches on Amazon. And sometimes people kind of take the lazy road, and say, "Well, if the software didn't find anything, there's no opportunity here." But the power of the Replen system that so many people in our community have built to thriving 7+ figure businesses is in the manual looking through, making sure that you're finding those matches that can't be made by software because the
Correct.
description doesn't quite match. The UPC wasn't used on Amazon, maybe,
Yes.
right? But you get that manual match and you find the Keepa chart and you look at that, and now you discover, okay, this is gold. No tool could
Yes.
have told me, but I've now connected in my head. That's the same product that's being described a little differently on Amazon, but it's the same product, and that's a
Correct.
gold mine,
Could
right?
be
So
a
that skill
different
set is what
picture.
you learn. The
Yes.
basic replens training will teach you these things,
Yes.
but
Correct. Because
the
yep, you
manual
preach.
search is vital. I completely, and
Yes.
that's why we pay virtual assistants and train them, for $4 an hour to sit and do that work. You need to learn it yourself at first,
Yep.
but yeah, great tip. I love it.
Yep. That was the big one. That's the big one on wholesale. And just like I said, this community is an absolute blessing, and what you're doing, bringing everybody together, it's just awesome. Just keep doing what you're doing, because that's
Mhm.
I mean, it's wonderful. It's you give back so much to the community. I think we all love it.
Oh, I appreciate that show of support, man. It's a ministry in my heart, and it's about things a lot bigger than, just helping people sell a few things on Amazon. For sure, it's a mission, and I see a culture in decline, and I see families that need to be together more. And
Yes.
we need those strong marriages and kids who understand entrepreneurship and see it as a virtuous thing. So it's about a lot more than to me than just selling a few things on Amazon and helping a few other people do that too. I see this as a big solution to what we're facing culturally. Not the entire solution, obviously, but a big piece of it. So we're doing what we can. But man, God bless you, Conrad. Great to
Thank
meet
you.
you
God
and spend
bless
a little
you.
bit more time with you. Thank you, my friend. And I
Thank you,
can't
Jim.
wait to see your whole beautiful family there again at the event next year. We got the dates locked in. You guys planning on being there? You said, right?
We are absolutely being there. I'm just waiting until June hits because I want to do the tickets against next month's income.
Gotcha. Well, we'll get you those discount prices, man. You just let me know, and we'll get you there
Awesome.
because I want you there. Who knows? You may be speaking on stage by then. Who knows? But you're on a great trajectory, and it's an honor to be part of the community with you. And can't wait to see where you go next, man.
Perfect. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Well, for the listeners who joined Conrad and I today, I hope you enjoyed this as much as we did. I learned a lot. It's great hearing these stories. If you're curious about episodes like this and you want to hear more of them, good news. We've got hundreds of interviews with proven Amazon course students, with students of our coaching program as well, who have built beautiful businesses. They tell their real stories, they reveal some strategies, and they just talk through very transparently what the journey has been like. If you want to hear a bunch of those, just scroll back in time. Silentjimdotcom has all those episodes. And like I always say, God bless you, business building warrior. We're in your corner. Can't wait to talk to you again soon. We'll have another good episode very soon.